Okay, Commissioners, you are live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the County Commissioners meeting. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first thing we have on our minutes, gentlemen, or on our agenda are the minutes. Do you have any additions, corrections?
I have none. Move we adopt the minutes of November 2nd, 2021.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept the proceedings of the Board of Commissioners, Montezuma County for November 2nd, 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have planning. Mr. Haley and Miss Duncan. Good morning.
Good morning.
First thing we have is a public hearing.
That is correct.
All right, would you call the roll, Kim?
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsay.
Here.
Commissioner Stevenson.
Here.
Administrator Powers.
Here.
Attorney McLaren.
Here.
Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed two-lot minor subdivision and rezoning application submitted by Sharon Williams, agent Krista Veloso, on property located at 7251 Road 25, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 35 acres more or less, located north on Road G, west of Road 25, situated in Section 3, Township 35 North, Range 16 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, November 9, 2021 at 9 a.m. Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online services at https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com, public home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 21st day of October, 2021, Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, October 27, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Kim. All right, Don, do you want to give us an overview?
Sure. Applicants, would you come up? So they have a 35-acre parcel, and they're just looking to split off the house with 5 acres right off of County Road 25, and then leave the remaining 30 acres as ag, vacant land. The Planning and Zoning recommended it for approval. The only condition was to provide an easement off of the county road to the remaining 30 acres, which the preliminary plat, if you want to bring that up, Shaq, does indicate that 30-foot easement for access and utilities.
So that basically will just be for a personal driveway.
Right. Yeah, that's an existing driveway now to the house. It's just extended west to get to the back 30. Well, it's not extended now, but the easement's there for that purpose.
Correct. It's just goes to the primary residence on the front side off of County Road
Correct.
25. So, would you like to add anything?
anything to add.
Okay. That really was going to be my only question, is how do we access the back, and is that obviously it's a dedicated easement for ingress and egress and cannot be dismissed for anything? Because that, I mean, here again, that's one of those things that we have issues with when properties change hands. You know, there becomes that rub with, well, you're not taking care of the road, or I'm taking care of the road more than you are, so on and so forth. So, okay. Commissioners?
I have nothing.
No.
Okay. Well, then at this point in time, we're going to open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment session of this, and I will basically bring it back to the commissioners.
I move we approve this two-lot minor subdivision amendment. Sorry, it's not an amendment. Proposed two-lot subdivision and rezoning application submitted by Sharon Williams, agent Krista Veloso, property located at 7251 Road 25, Cortez.
I'll second it.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept a proposed two-lot minor subdivision and rezoning application submitted by Sharon Williams, agent Kristen Veloso, on property located at 7251 Road 25, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 35 acres or more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I will close this public hearing.
Thank you. Have a
Thank you,
good
folks.
Veterans Day.
You too.
tomorrow.
You too.
Is that all signed? Oh, look at that.
You have signatures that you need?
Thank you.
You guys. Oh, let me just stop it.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of my report. We have 3 minutes before our next public hearing. So for those of you that don't know, and a lot of you probably do, Congress passed late Friday night into law an infrastructure bill, transportation bill. I was able to get on a Zoom call yesterday with the United States Department of Transportation Director Pete Buttigieg, and hopefully I said that correctly, but just kind of a breakdown of where that transportation money is being allocated. Road and Bridge is going to get $110 billion, rail $66 billion, public transit $39 billion, airports $42 billion, safety $11 billion, EV charging $7.5 billion, clean water $55 billion, resilience $50 billion, clean water and power, $65 billion. Broadband, $48 billion. Internet affordability, $14.8 billion. And digital equity of $2.7 billion. I was asked last night, and I haven't read the entire context of it, but where does digital equity go? And I can't answer that. I'll have to look into that. But that's kind of a breakdown of where that money is being allocated into those items, and then they now have to start working with the state, local tribes, communities, and partners to get this money and to see how they're going to get it put to use. So, just a quick synopsis of that infrastructure bill and where that's going.
Did they mention how they were going to pay for it?
Well,
How we're going to pay for it.
it's how we are going to pay for it.
Now, I got a question about that. If they can print all their own money, why do they still need to tax us?
Well, I can't answer that
That's a
either.
good question.
So it is 9:10, and Kim, would you go ahead and call the roll for our next public hearing?
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsey.
Here.
Commissioner Stevenson.
Here.
Administrator Powers.
Here.
Attorney McLaren.
Here.
And Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed subdivision amendment application to the Fowler two-lot development submitted by Joe and Rita Fowler on property located at 25198 Road T.5, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 4.01 acres, more or less, located south of Road T.5 and east of Road 25, situated in Section 14, Township 37 North, Range 16 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, November 9, 2021, at 9:10 a.m. Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online services at https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com, public home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 21st day of October, 2021, Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, October 27, 2021.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, Don, you want to give us an overview or?
Sure.
or the
Joe, would you
applicants?
like to come up? This is Joe Fowler. It's his property.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. So this is a subdivision they created last year, I believe, and now they are amending the property lines. So it's a boundary line adjustment. Because it's a subdivision amendment, it's going through the whole process. So they're just taking, adding more property to Lot 1 and to Lot 2 and taking it from Lot 1. They've had some people interested in purchasing it, but they kind of wanted a different configuration, so they're making the adjustment to accommodate selling it.
And planning and zoning?
They were unanimous to recommend it for approval.
Okay. So where is the access?
My question.
Is it
The existing driveway for Lot 1 is in the northeast corner.
right? But what about for lot 2? Is it just going to be created later, or is it's not?
Yeah, there's a whole stretch there that fronts the county road that they could use for access.
Okay, so anywhere on that 267 feet, basically. Okay,
Mhm.
so it's just not there. Okay.
Yeah, it's just ag land now, just pasture or farmland.
Okay, and the garage down there meets all the setback requirements?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mr. Fowler?
I think that sums it up. Just a simple adjustment there.
Okay, all right, commissioners.
I have no questions.
None.
Straightforward.
Okay. Well, at this point in time, then, I will open this application up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the board. Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll close the public comment session of this hearing, and I will bring it back to the commissioners. Gentlemen.
I would move that we accept this proposed subdivision amendment application to the Fowler two-lot development submitted by Joe and Rita Fowler on property located at 25198 County Road T.5, Cortez, Colorado.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to accept the proposed subdivision amendment application to the Fowler two-lot subdivision submitted by Joe and Rita Fowler on property located at 25198 Road T.5, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 4.01 acres, more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
All right, great.
Thank
Very
you, Joe.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Have a good day.
We do have a Mylar that needs to be signed. This is the previously approved amendment to the Mountain Jerry subdivision
Okay.
from Glen Raleigh.
We have plenty of time.
Thank you. Thank you. Changing your last name, right?
You take this one.
Oh, yeah, you can take this one.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it for now. Well, we got one more.
Well, I'm waiting on time. Anyone, you guys have something short to report?
Just let the commission know that the Glenn Fish, the president of Fish Brothers LLC, came in to update me on progress that they're making. That was a verbal update. I will be going out to verify that tomorrow at 12:30 just to put eyes on it, and we're also going to be doing a walkthrough inspection with Mr. Belden, and Attorney McLaren can give you more of an update on that. But allegedly there is progress being made on the fish farm south of town, and I will go verify tomorrow.
Okay. Did we get a letter out to them also? Was that sent out from planning to start that?
Oh, didn't send anything to the fish property.
Well, we did to the other fish property.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah, and we've got the return postage on that. Yeah, so. I also wanted to let the commissioners know I've had a discussion with the city of Cortez. The commission, as you know, acts as the 911 authority board, and through that authority purchased some recording equipment last year. They're running into problems with that and may need to get in a warranty dispute with the manufacturer. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that we may be hearing something about that soon.
And I've been in touch with the city attorney about that as well. Talked to him this morning. We're going to get something drafted and sent over to the manufacturer, and in hopes that maybe they can correct their problem without moving forward with the legal action.
So they're just not recording properly, or what's the issue?
My understanding from the city attorney is, well, he didn't go into the in-depth issues. He was going to meet with the IT person today and try to get some information on exactly what's going on. He felt like, it sounds like though the system is just not functioning as it should.
Yeah, it's not interacting the way they said it would with the Motorola devices and not recording properly. And so obviously for legal reasons, those recordings have to be preserved, right? So just a heads up that may be coming.
Okay.
Well, we don't have enough time for me to get into the rest of it, so.
Okay, being 9:20, we have this time set aside for another public hearing. Kim, would you go ahead and call the roll?
Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Commissioner Lindsey.
Here.
Commissioner Stevenson.
Here.
Administrator Powers.
Here.
Attorney McLaren.
Here.
Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will hold a public hearing for review and determination of a proposed subdivision in AR 3-9 rezoning application submitted by Flame Connolly, agent Ironwood Group LLC, on property located at 27980 Road T, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 35.85 acres more or less, located south of Road T, east of Highway 145, situated in Section 19, Township 37 North, Range 15 West, N.M.P.M. The hearing will be held Tuesday, November 9, 2021, at 9:20 a.m. Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County Administrative Offices, 109 West Main, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office online service at https://co-montezuma-co.smartgovcommunity.com, public home. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. Dated this 21st day of October, 2021. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Wednesday, October 27th, 2021.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Don, do you want to go ahead and give us an overview, and are the applicants
Yes.
in here?
Would you guys like to come up? This is Wade. I don't know his last name or his title. He's a
Plant
foreman or
manager?
Manager at Ironwood. So the applicants, Ironwood is the agent for Miss Conley. She's looking to subdivide her 35 acres into a 3-lot and 32-lot parcels. Ironwood's interested in the 3-acre parcel to mitigate the lagoons and the old firefighting well that's right there, not too far off their mill building. They plan on using it to stockpile, fill in all that area. They're going to do some excavating off of the southeast end of the mill building. Flame's just looking to subdivide that 3 acres off right now, and her residence is on the balance of the property, lot 2. Planning and zoning was unanimous to recommend it for approval with no conditions.
So you're going to remove the pits? Is that, did I understand that correctly?
Excavate it and fill it in. Right now, it's a pretty safety hazard.
Okay.
The berm's on the southeast end of the mill building, and they'll excavate that out, fill in the lagoons and the old fire well.
How big is that old firewall?
35 feet.
Gallons? No idea.
I'm not sure gallons. It's probably 60 feet by 40 feet.
And it's just an open...
Yeah, it's
type.
got an old wooden roof on it right now, and there's holes all over. Pretty unsafe.
You gonna fill it in?
Yeah. Get it back to natural level ground.
So this would just be adding that 3 acres to your current property, correct? Is that what I'm seeing?
Actually, at this point, it would just be standalone. Once they get it all filled, they are proposing to store their finished blocks on there. Where they're being stored now is at the end of the mill building, so they'll just swap and store them there on the other 3 acres after they excavate out at the end of the mill building.
So this is going to be a standalone lot, I guess is where I'm going.
Correct.
So how are we going to access it? Is it going to be incorporated into the Ironwood facility eventually?
Their proposed high-impact special use amendment application encompasses covering that 3 acre lot under that permit. but that will be up for review in the future. The other condition with obtaining that 3 acres is right now there's an easement access from the Conleys onto Ironwood's property there, and they would like to terminate that just so that there's no more access from anybody and possible liability issues.
Okay, so it can't just be a standalone lot that can be accessed by anybody if they choose to sell it?
There is an access to that lot down the
Where is
east
it
property
at?
line. Down the east property line.
Okay,
It just will terminate there at the lot and not continue on.
continue to the south, I
Mhm.
guess? Okay. All right, that's all I have, gentlemen.
I guess I might as well preface this, because during P&Z meeting, there was some confusion as to the 3 separate applications. This is strictly Ms. Conley's 2-lot subdivision application. It's not extending on for any other rights or uses or conditions of what and how Ironwood operates. Ironwood just happens to be the agent because they are interested in purchasing that parcel.
Correct, so we're just looking at a 2-lot subdivision?
Correct.
Okay. All right, would you like to add anything?
Not at this time.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, well then I will open this up for public comment. Anybody wishing to speak for or against this application, please come down to the podium, state your name, address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to address the board.
And commissioners, before public comment is open, I would recommend that you address how you would expect members of the audience to conduct themselves during public comment. As you know, last week it got kind of unruly. We've had several phone calls throughout the week that were nasty. At best, I'd be happy to play recordings of them if you'd like. But I would highly recommend that you explain how you expect the audience to conduct themselves.
You know, it seems like I'll say this, and it seems like it goes without saying, but this is a public comment section of a public hearing. If you're going to come down here, address the board, and do it in a way that is civil and respectful, and then get your opinion across, and that's fine. We'll then listen to everybody's. Please present facts, because that's what we have to base all of our decisions on, are facts and not emotions. So, again, civil and respectful. And at that time, I see somebody waiting. Come on down, ma'am.
Is it on?
You're on.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm
it's on.
Mary Ranney, 16715 Highway 145, Dolores. Okay, thank you for allowing us to speak. To varying degrees, we represent a growing number of voters, residents, and landowners who are concerned with this permit but cannot attend this meeting for a number of reasons. Thank you for clarifying the purpose of today's permit request. What's still unclear, however, is number 3 under the proposed development of the subdivision and rezoning application. The requested zoning says industrial AR 10-34. If it's not yet part of Ironwood, why does this need to be rezoned now? We thought we understood that this permit is for the purpose of purchasing and annexing 3 acres to Ironwood for high-impact zoning. We believe that's still the ultimate goal. Although we don't know the specific purpose of this land annexation, the zoning implies that light, sound, and transported particulates will be increased as part of the logging operation already in existence. Those concerns haven't been addressed yet, and adding another 3 acres to it would appear to only compound the problem. The Land Use Code, Section 2202.8 says, the proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse impacts on other property in the area and is consistent with the code, and if the applicant fails to meet these decision criteria, The permit shall either be approved with conditions ensuring compliance with the decision criteria, or it shall be denied. It doesn't appear that these criteria have been met on the original parcel, and adding another 3 acres isn't going to change that. We know that the Ironwood facility isn't going to go away. We all understand that it's only part of why something of its nature is necessary, not just to provide local jobs, but to keep our forests from becoming California's. That being said, the existing mulch pile hasn't been dealt with yet. We urge you to table this permit until the promised mitigations on the existing property have been addressed. We want the facility to be held accountable before proceeding further. We currently live under a 24/7 fear of fire, and it's difficult to see or be able to cooperate beyond that. We come to you with the hope that all of you have had the opportunity to actually visit the Ironwood Mill property and the residential area that it impacts when it's been in full operation. If not, visiting it now would be a waste of your time because it's quiet and not lighted. We implore you to either approve this permit with conditions, deny it, or table your decision at this time. Thank you for letting us be heard.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, John Godbat, 28,000 Road T. I'm going to, first of all, thank you, Mr. Candelaria, for imparting on me the process over theatrics last week. I really appreciate that, and that we're allowed to be heard without those things, and hopefully this serves as an example for others to not use theatrics and that they have a voice in here, so thank you for that. The proposed 3-acre subdivision and rezoning are part of an expansion I just want to emphasize, and I'm going to skip over some stuff that Mary said in the interest of time. But it is a part of an expansion, which is addressed in the land use code. And because it's addressed in the land use code, it is kind of required that the existing operations, the historical operations, and the current operations be considered in expanding this. And there is a mitigation plan that is currently in place from planning and zoning on the existing operation. And I believe in the interest of fairness and proper discretion and good faith, this should be just continued to include this 3-acre parcel in that mitigation plan. I'm not necessarily opposed to the 3 acres, but I just think it's necessary and prudent to include it in the mitigation plan that's currently in place, because it would be reckless. Since they're expanding their special use permit and 24/7 operations, it would be kind of reckless to say they have to have a mitigation plan for their 65 acres, but not this 3 acres. I do also want to address the concern of it being separate, because now you have 3 separate heavy industrial parcels. Say 10 years from now or 20 years from now, we've got to look at that. There'll be 3 separate parcels listed in a residential and agricultural neighborhood that are heavy industrial that can be purchased by anyone. So I would suggest that it be at least included into the existing parcels to prevent turning that into an industrial park, essentially, where we have 3-4 factories all of a sudden. Anyway, that's my request, is that it just simply be continued and be a part of the mitigation plan, and we look at that on December 9th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Valdez, 27501 Road T. I'm reading this on behalf of someone who is ill and not able to come today. Dear County Commissioners, I am Paul Van Vliet, and I reside at 2811 County Road T, Dolores. My residence sits on the hill, approximately 2,200 feet north of the Ironwood Mill. And even from this distance, excuse me, my wife and I have been disturbed at all hours of the day and night from the noise caused by the trucks rumbling down the highway, hitting their jake brakes before they reach County Road T to make the turn to unload at Ironwood. Once there, we can hear the loud banging as they unload the logs. We hear the chipper, the backup beepers, which have had something installed to quiet them, but can still be heard. We are also impacted by the incredible amount of dust and the fine debris caused from whatever process they use on the logs. Our other main concern at this time is the large amount of combustible waste that has accumulated on the Ironwood property in the form of chips, and even log ends that are randomly piled on the property. In the beginning of their operation, the community was told how this was such a great operation due to the fact that they would be using the beetle-killed pine that was being harvested from the forest to mitigate wildfire danger. Our question is, how is removing the fire danger from the forest, but the milling process of those logs brings a fire danger into our neighborhood better for anyone? We already live with this concern due to the extreme drought in our area. Now we have watched the slash pile grow to the point it can be seen well over the top of the warehouses. There doesn't seem to be any attempt to mitigate this fire danger, not even in the light of recent fires, at two other similar mills in the area. We are referring to the fire at Western Excelsior in Mancus in May of 2017, which destroyed the building and equipment, producing massive amounts of smoke for this area, along with the evacuation of nearby residents. Then in December of 2020, Aspen Wallwood had a massive fire in their slash waste pile, believed to be caused by spontaneous combustion, which burned for months and may still be burning. Ironwood is not in production mode at this time, having laid off most of their workforce a few weeks ago. Our question now is, while they are not in production, why aren't they taking measures to mitigate the slash pile? Now Ironwood is wanting to acquire and rezone a 3-acre parcel purchased from Flame Conley that borders the existing Ironwood property. We believe this would have further negative impact on an existing problem that is currently not being addressed. Thank you for your time and consideration for these concerns, Paul Van Vliet. Thank you for the letter.
Thank you. Next.
Wish I was a lot taller. 28,000 RT, Lana Kelly.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Lana Kelly.
Lana Kelly?
Yeah. I have the RV park and campground that is 300 feet from Ironwood's current border. I've worked very hard to expand my business. My revenue has tripled since 2018. I've made over $200,000 in infrastructure and other improvements, all going to local contractors. My property taxes are 40% of what Ironwood pays for its main parcel, and I contribute lodging tax on RV, cabin, tent, and room rentals. My business does not tear up roads, create fire hazards, traffic hazards, noise, light pollution, or dust. I do not require any subsidization for my growth from the taxpayers. I provide lodging for tourists, long-term retirees, people that are moving here, short-term health care workers, fire mitigation workers, Airbnbs, construction contractors, and an occasional mill worker, just to name a few. I have future plans for more tiny homes, cabins, and lodging. There's a huge demand for it and very little affordable supply. And I have the infrastructure in place to do it. Any future investments that I have made are on hold, maybe permanently due to the rezoning application to acquire and rezone 3 acres of land for high impact from my neighbor, Flame Connolly. The majority of Ironwood's high-impact industrial operations are 300 feet from my property line, even though they currently have 65 acres, much unused. My neighbor wants to rezone 3 acres high-impact industrial and subdivide for the purposes of selling to Ironwood. Flame's property is the only buffer between my campground and Ironwood, which is currently insufficient. And the related permit that is related from question 22 on this current permit that says no related permits and no further plans for development, there is a related permit, and it's actually being addressed under a mitigation plan The current zoning is to provide a buffer between the two competing surrounding uses. This unabated approval of this zoning change threatens the current buffer. My current operations have already been adversely affected by threshold violations, which is actually being addressed under their special use permit on a related application that has not come before the commission. What is the justification and purpose of this buffer between my property and Ironwood's being taken away? What are the impacts to surrounding uses? Has this been considered? Has there been any review of Ironwood's current permit to ensure that they are meeting all the requirements before another rezoning and purchase is made closer to their non-industrial neighbors and my business? The purpose of zoning defined in the Montezuma County Land Code is for property owners to know what to expect with zoning changes and so they can plan accordingly. This is especially important for a business. We know what to expect. We don't know what to expect. And this uncertainly halts future investments and improvements and financially injures property investments already made. If we look at the operating permit granted Ironwood in 2019 as written, we would expect the minimum threshold to be met and not expect 24/7 operations. There wasn't even a mitigation plan with that. As a result, I have already had to forgo tourist revenue on the south 5 acres of my property for existing and future operations because of Ironwood's violations. And now I have 3 more acres that are being proposed to come next to my business and my property and residence where I live. I respectfully request the Commission to review the purpose and impact of this rezoning pursuant to Resolution 3-2015, items A, C, D, and F for an existing business that can afford to expand and generate more revenue, but is unable to do so because items A, C, D, and F are not being met and considered by another neighbor. Please give this the due diligence that it deserves, and I deserve as a business owner with significant investments next door to Ironwood Mill. Consider my loss of use that is already significant and will be even more significant if the zoning request is approved without conditions or meaningful further research. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Next.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Trent Bishop. Trent Bishop, 27522 Road T. Kind of alter what I was going to say initially because I think it's pertinent. We opened this hearing not hearing from Flame Connolly, but we heard from Ironwood. The argument would be potentially that this is Flame's desire to divide the property, but in fact we opened this hearing listening to what Ironwood wants to do with this property. I think that's pertinent to the point and is what should be considered because that's how they presented it. That is the intention of this property split. I don't believe Flame Connolly has any care just to subdivide if he has children and provide a lot for his children to live there. That is not the purpose of this subdivision. Subdivision, and specifically the rezoning of the proposed 3 acres, would reduce the physical distance to neighbors and businesses currently impacted by Ironwood's lack of mitigation of noise, light, dust, and an incredibly huge fire hazard, and further subject neighbors to violations of the Montezuma Land Use Code. This in of itself should be enough to reject this application for subdivision and rezoning of the 3 acres. If this were rezoned, it would also limit further notification of applications to Ironwood and Flame Connolly. They would be the only adjoining properties going forward, requiring no further notification to the neighbors who are in fact impacted by what Ironwood is doing. I'm here today to ask you to table or reject this application and any further applications in relation to Ironwood under Section 2202.8, Parts B and D, until the time that they decide or are forced by you, our elected representatives, to be a responsible and respectful member of this community. Ironwood has shown an unwillingness or inability to meet the basic requirements required by Montezuma County land codes and the permit under which they operate. Clearly, 2202.8, Section B, the proposed use shall not generate any significant adverse effects on other property in the area and is consistent with this code, is and would further be violated by allowing the rezoning of this acreage. Going forward, I ask you all to proceed in all dealings with Ironwood under 2202.8 Section D of the Land Use Code identified on Ironwood's original permit. If the applicant fails to meet these decision criteria, the permit shall either be approved with conditions ensuring compliance compliance with the decision criteria, or it shall be denied. I believe it's time for Ironwood to operate like other large mills in our state and have a professional, licensed engineer's plan to guide their mitigation strategies as well as their development plan. Furthermore, I ask that you require them to provide that complete project plan so that we all can know their intentions going forward and avoid needing to frequently meet here and debate their plans. I'm sure you've had enough of us, and you'll be seeing more of us. Finally, we, the citizens of Montezuma County and Ironwood, need a clearly defined path of how complaints are lodged, how they are formally responded to, and how code violations are enforced. Now, I'll kind of just wrap up, and I know, again, going back to the beginning of this argument, that this is Flame's desire to separate 3 acres. I do anesthesia as a profession. That's like saying what I'm doing has no relationship to what the surgeon is doing. It's integral. The patient's in the middle, the patient's the land. If we're not communicating what's going on with those two, disastrous outcomes happen. I ask you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
Morning. Francis Thullen at 27.8 Road 27.8. I'm adjoined to Road T4, and my neighbors are expressing a greater concern than I was aware of because of the noise and light pollution that's already present. If that is exacerbated, it will decrease property values such as they are, and quite simply, I'm just here to express their concern along with my own that, of course, property values would be detrimental to all of us. We're all mostly all senior people. If that could be taken into consideration, be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Okay. Seeing no other public comment, we are going to close the public comment section of this, and we are going to bring it back. So, would you like to address any of those, Mr. Haley or Ironwood?
I guess just a general statement is Chapter 2, the high impact permit has nothing to do with this. That's not being reviewed now. The 3-acre parcel, if you look at the map, actually lies laterally at the south edge of the campground, so they're not getting any closer. The buffer zone from the mill building to the RV park isn't changing.
So
as far as the other operations of Ironwood, that's not being considered right now. The AR 3 to 9 rezoning, anytime you subdivide anything in the county, it gets rezoned. That's automatic. Unless it's, say if you've got AR 10 to 34 zoning on a property and they split it in half, well, you're still gonna have AR 10 to 34 rezoning if it's a 25-acre parcel. Because that 3 acres is being split off, it has to be rezoned AR 3 to 9 as opposed to current zoning is AR 35 plus. Flames will be rezoned to AR 10 to 34. They're both AR zoning, it's just a different designation because of the smaller parcel. So the rezoning doesn't change the high impact permit, special use permit that Ironwood has. That's going to be addressed later on in their amended high impact permit, that they are looking to cover this 3 acres. But if it's not approved, then it wouldn't.
correct. So we're looking at just a simple lot split today. Down the
Correct.
road, the questions and the concerns have come up of what's going to be used with the high impact permit and or the special use permit, which
Right.
are coming at a
Correct.
later date. So,
And I guess if everything goes south, Flame can sell that to somebody else.
she could sell it to anybody she wants to right now,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
That's not, she has no restrictions on her.
Right. And I think what we have is, we go back to basics, and this is a willing seller, a willing buyer. And for us to step in between that, we would open ourselves up to some litigation, I believe. And our lawyer can speak more on that, but
Well, that's certainly a piece of this, and I think really what you need to look at is, what the adverse impacts or potential adverse impacts are to neighboring properties. What we heard today is that this is going to be used to store some product. It's right next to a mill, and so I don't know that there's really any adverse impact to properties neighboring that aren't already there. We're not talking about building a new mill on this 3-acre piece. We're not talking about reducing the buffer size. So that's really the big question that you guys have to look at today. This is a subdivision request, and does the proposed use conform with the code, and are there significant adverse impacts to neighboring properties? That's what we're here to decide today.
Well, I believe today, all we're looking at is a simple land split. Most of your concerns are going to be addressed probably at the next meeting, where it does bring Ironwood into this. Today, we're dealing with Flame Conley's split of a piece of property. And that's pretty much how we have to look at it today. But when the next deal comes in, that's when your concerns are probably gonna be more addressed, and we get down to it there.
So I do have another statement, or actually a question to Ironwood. You've obviously seen and heard very clearly, as we have had several phone calls, emails, nasty phone calls, everything in the world. This is not going to get any easier for you all going forward if this is approved today. So I just want you to realize that there is a lot that you guys need to consider, moving forward. I look at this today as, yes, this is just a simple subdivision split for Flame Conley. You just happen to be the agent, and you're probably the interested buyer. However, the next two applications, there's going to be some requirements that are going to have to be probably met. If you don't have a professional mitigation plan, which we've talked about here because of the fires that we have had with the slash piles, that's a pretty fair question to be asked, and it's probably going to be one of mine for sure. That slash pile is large, and what are we going to eventually do with it? Back to the simplicity of this today, this is just a 2-lot subdivision for Flame Conley, and I think the things going farther forward, we're going to come up in the high impact permit and the special use permit. So, public comments over, sir. I'm sorry. Nope. Now we're going through the process. So, we will move that forward. So, gentlemen, do you have any other questions for the planning director or Ironwood?
I do not.
I don't.
Okay. Well, then at this time, I need to have one way or another what your thoughts are.
I move we approve subdivision and AR 3 through 9 rezoning application submitted by Flame Conley Agent Ironwood Group LLC, located on property 27980 Road T, Dolores.
And I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
Okay. Well, then it's been moved and seconded to accept a proposed subdivision and AR 3 through 9 rezoning application submitted by Flame Conley Agent Ironwood Group LLC on property located at 27980 Road T, Dolores, Colorado, consisting of 35.85 acres more or less. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Flame has a subdivision.
Thank you.
Now, going forward, I would just caution you. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Be good neighbors.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have our public, oh, I'm sorry, do you have anything else?
Nope, not at the moment, or not today.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
again, next on our agenda is the public comment session. The Board of County Commissioners welcomes you to this meeting. Person speaking during the public comment will be limited to 3 minutes, or depending on the number of people wishing to speak, it may be reduced to allow all members of the public the opportunity to address the board. When addressing the board, please state your name and address for the record prior to providing your comments, and comments to individual supervisors or staff are not permitted, and participants may not yield their time. And with that, our public comment session is open. Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and proceed in our agenda. The next thing we have up are our county operations and IT. Mr. McLean.
Morning.
Morning.
Oh, well, I don't have a whole lot, except that we did have an issue come up this morning, just so you're aware of it. It's going to cause problems with email. It's not internally, it's externally, public DNS records. And it's something you might even want to be aware of. I don't know if you have customers that are using them, but Forethought/Brainstorm has always hosted our public DNS records, and they're down at the moment. And what that basically means is when somebody tries to do anything to a name, like say google.com or whatever, in our case it's webmail, it can't resolve. So they're working on it. I just got the notice from them. So
That means we're not getting no emails for a while?
that's what it means.
Freaking A, leave that thing down for a while. I don't see a problem with that whatsoever.
Problem solved. You're welcome. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot.
You're the man.
So we've had to put in new help desk software in. You guys have probably kind of seen the emails hopping back and forth, and I don't know if you wanted to bring it up, I can show it to them. It's that there's an icon. But the help desk we were using before was free. Always my favorite price, except that they quit making it, and they're not supporting it. And can't imagine why. You just hit submit a ticket. So we had to go with something that cost. It's not ridiculous, but we're in the process of getting this finished up, and this is where we're at now. So this is what you guys will start to see. It should be on everybody's desktops at this point. So, and it's set up now. If you email support, it automatically generates a ticket. So it's actually a pretty nice little system. We've got it split now for both maintenance and IT, and I know it's working because he's getting tickets, and so.
Can Joel get all the email?
I don't think Commissioner Stevenson submits a ticket at all. He just lets his email go for days on end, and he likes it.
Or you could go by what Isaac did. He sent out an email last week to everybody. He said, "We're no longer accepting drive-by tickets," which basically means when we walk by and you go, "I need something fixed," we go, "Sorry, put a ticket in." We get so busy that you just trying to get people to use the email and the help desk because we just forget. Plus, it puts accountability back on my department. Now I have a record of it, so it's going pretty good so far. And obviously, you know about the issues yesterday. Yesterday, it was something in the water because everything was. These were going nuts.
So are you gonna have to update something on, like this iPad and
Nope.
stuff?
Nope, it's all web-based for you. Okay.
Because I was going to say, here's a work order for you.
Yeah, no, you're fine on there.
Commissioner Stevenson told me
Submit it.
last week, he goes, I haven't gotten any emails for 5 days, and I'm like, oh, something is definitely wrong.
But we fixed that last week.
Oh, yeah, and I got about 150 of them come in one day.
You're welcome. Other than that, it's business as usual. Just trying to finish up year-end stuff, doing inventory, that kind of thing.
So Commissioner Stevenson, if you don't get at least 3 to 5 emails from me, you should be submitting a help desk.
Per hour.
If you're not getting at least 12 from Spratland every 5 minutes, then you absolutely need to let us know through help desk, because something's not right.
Well, my help desk will be that verbally catching you as you walk by.
You are allowed.
Okay.
Anything I can do for you, gentlemen?
Keep it running.
Nope. Keep it going.
Can't do that, but
Road, that one.
I have a part, the guy's got one in stock in Durango. I'm either gonna drive over today and get it, or gonna send it by Kangaroo Express. So, yes, I'm aware.
Okay.
Well, you know how we work around here in our motto, because we're government.
Yeah,
If it ain't broke, fix it till it is.
that's right, and that's what we're doing. That's why you have MacGyver 1, MacGyver 2, and MacGyver 3.
That's right.
Find a way. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Vehicle maintenance was next, but Shane is tied up, and he won't be in today. So we will go down to Dustin Sattler, our buildings, grounds, and maintenance.
Morning. So, been working on exterior lights around the county. There's been quite a few that were out, being that it was getting dark in the mornings on the way into work, and now it's going to be dark when they're leaving work. So, we've got pretty well all of them taken care of, I believe. Then I have one guy that's working on getting a quote together for the gutters at the Sallyport. Mainly I need to figure out where he wants to put downspouts and all that, so we can kind of figure on what we need for concrete and asphalt work if we're going to go that route, as far as how much we need to tear out.
I think, looking at that when we did that inspection over there, if they go to that detention pond to the west, so they pipe it, go under the concrete and then the asphalt, and dump everything into that detention pond.
Okay. Then we
I think it would probably be more
get
than
away
adequate.
without.
As far as the calculation to get the load off of the roof, that the gutter guys can do that pretty easily.
Okay.
Because that's an 8-inch gutter, right?
It was 6 or 8, one of the
It's
two.
a pretty large gutter, so you're gonna have to have a pretty good vertical drop for that. How long, Dustin, before you get us something that we can move on?
I called him back. I haven't had a return phone call. I did call another one, so he's going to be here tomorrow sometime. So hopefully pretty soon.
Okay, so, because we're gonna have water coming off that roof pretty quick, so.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put a timeline on it. I think that we should, have the numbers back to us so that we can make a decision, so that we can get something done. So I'm gonna give you another week.
Okay.
And, obviously report back to Shaq. I think it's critical. Is that doable? We've been talking about this now for 2 months.
Yeah. I'll do my best to get a quote back from them.
Okay, did we find the actual people that installed it originally, or?
He told me to call Cruzan, and I called Cruzan, and they referred me to Rocky Mountain Seamless Gutters and South Valley Gutters. Rocky Mountain's who I've been dealing with so far.
Okay.
But I did call him back and did not get a return call last week, Wednesday or Thursday. I can try him back again today, and then also South Valley will be here tomorrow.
So did James, did you get a hold of James? Because they were the
general contractor.
they would know who they used to gutter that building originally.
And they referred me to Cruzan because they were the ones that erected the building. Then as far as the fire suppression at the fairgrounds. I have to go to a water board meeting tonight at 6:30, so they can try and make some kind of decision. Fire suppression company believes we need a 6-inch line, and that's a board-decided item. So they said if somebody's there, it's easier for them not to say no. So go out there for that.
Which is pretty typical. I think most suppression systems have to be a minimum of 6 inches anyway.
Okay. Then we've replaced the detention toilet in the B unit. It was vandalized by an inmate, and it was like a 14-week order, so we received it and got it installed, so that unit's back, or that cell's back up and running. And then the east gate at the sheriff's department was hit by a deputy, and the gate company is waiting on the drive rail and rollers for the gate, and so we can get that replaced. And then I believe they started working on the pad for that Dolores shop expansion yesterday, and as of Friday it looked like they were putting purlins on the building at the Mancus yard, so probably be getting ready to sheet metal that this week, I would think. So, other than that, kind of normal stuff.
Very good.
Anything else besides getting that gutter
I
taken
think
care
that's the
of?
biggest thing, because
Yeah.
it's the court system. I mean, the offer is there to help pay for that, so we can't really move forward until we get those numbers.
Yeah. And I haven't heard anything back from Dennis Humphreys, the actual architect on the building, on if we're trying to cover the whole area. So, but
I
I
think
kind
we
of
pretty
expected
much-
that, because
We're gonna have to cover the whole area, otherwise that water seepage is gonna continue to go down and then migrate into those offices on that side of the building.
yeah. But I think that gutter would be a good mitigation for now, anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, thank you, Dustin.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dustin. No,
Okay.
appreciate it.
Do you go grab GIS?
I did. They're on their way.
Okay. Come on down. Waiting on you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Things went quick this morning. I have a folder in Dropbox, Shaq,
Okay.
and they're just numbered with the ones that we wanted to talk about first,
It's under GIS.
under GIS, and November 9th. Rachel will be in a second. I had a couple stop in yesterday, and we're asking about an address. An address change was issued. I believe they're on the agenda for next week. I'm not really here to talk about that, but it made me realize that perhaps the commissioners and the county attorney, we've had some changeover since we really started this addressing project, and kind of go over some of the documentations and resolutions that have been adopted that have, in some sense, reestablished the county addressing systems and authorities over time. So that's going to be my point of topic for today. The history of the addressing system as we use it currently, it was started in 1978, I believe, by Mountain State Telephone. And really interesting history. We still have some of those original books, the original paper books, where they did a fabulous job in going out through the county and getting everything extremely consistent. And it's really neat, and it's a great system. For somebody who has to do addressing, I'm really glad that we don't have a bunch of curvy roads with a bunch of weird names that nobody has to know. It's a grid. It's an XY grid system. And since that time, since Mountain States developed that grid, probably in conjunction with a 911 push, The assessor's office then took over assigning addresses off of their paper plat maps, obviously prior to GIS. And that was done really by a variety of personnel. Sometimes efforts were very good. One of the bigger problems that we had, that we adopted in about 2008 when we started looking at addresses in the county, is that, again, we didn't have GIS and electronic maps, so the assessors would assign guess addresses to vacant properties. And those guess addresses would be plopped down right in the middle of a parcel. So if it's a 40-acre parcel and was plopped down right in the middle, it never took into account where somebody was actually going to build a driveway. And so the assessor's process in assigning an address really wasn't linked to the planning process or the driveway permitting process that we currently have. So we have made some of those strides. And when we started to reformalize some of these processes in 2008, we had a employee by the name of Jim Burton who really took the bull by the horns and did a great job with this. He presented Resolution 22 of 2008 to the commissioners at the time, and essentially what that does, yeah, it's up there, is it re-adopts the address grid system, redefines that as addressing will increase north to south, east to west, 1,000 units per mile, originating from the southern line of Township 34 North, or essentially the Mountain Ute Tribal line north, and from the Utah-Colorado state line. It also defines the problem in that resolution, which is where we, over time, had created quite a few out-of-sequence addresses, and the problem was that emergency responders were having a difficult time locating persons in a timely manner. And then it also establishes authority in this document as well, giving the Board of County Commissioners legal authority to authorize rural address property changes. So that was that document. And then in 2009, we had Resolution 6, 2009, and that gave the responsibility and authorization to the Montezuma County Addressing Office to implement the signing and changing of addresses in a uniform manner to meet emergency response requirements in accordance with the road naming and addressing standards. So that references this document, this next document that we'll look at. And also on this document, it mentions for the first time red roads and what the definition of a red road is. It gives a clue to that. And essentially, a red road is not maintained, not currently maintained by Montezuma County. And it also defines what a driveway is. A driveway is an access that serves 2 residences or less. And as the county has grown, some driveway accesses have grown to include many residences that use the same access point from another named county road. So under the road naming and addressing standards adopted at the same time as part of that resolution, not going to go too much into depth on this. It more specifically lists the authority from the state of Colorado, statutes. It specifically mentions that only the Board of County Commissioners or appointed representatives of the addressing office, GIS mapping department, may assign, approve, or change components of an address in unincorporated Montezuma County. It mentions that the naming of private red signed roads is done in the interest of public safety. It mentions, and obviously we don't have a lot of enforcement about this, but it does specifically mention that address markers need to be posted at the intersection of the private driveway with a named county road. It says that should happen. It also says that it should be posted on the structure near the front door. Obviously, we would like to see people follow those guidelines. It also mentions that any numbers previously displayed which could be confused with the properly assigned address number should be removed from a mailbox or a home. In other words, if an address is changed or updated, you need to change or update that marking on your property. And then it kind of addresses the problem that we had identified at that point as the guest addresses, in that vacant properties will no longer be assigned addresses until they go through a driveway permitting process, or we see where a driveway is built if it's not subject to a driveway permit. So that's that document, and that was all done here in 2009, and we have made a lot of progress since that time. We've been working on it. As you know, it can get controversial. Certainly got controversial during some of the commissioner meetings when we were correcting some of the out of sequence addresses at that time, and people weren't too happy about it, because it does place a burden on people to do that unless absolutely necessary. And I think that's where we're at now, is that we don't do it unless we're absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, we're past some of those really difficult times when we had a lot of poor addresses. We're down to an amount where it's more infrequent, and we're really typically responding to changes in development patterns, whether that's new subdivisions, new homes going in, or additional development that's spurring the need for an address change. So in the address guidelines, it does reference the road system guidelines, and it mentions the county road consists of primary and secondary road system. All those roads designated a red signed constitute the county's secondary system, for which the Board of County Commissioners does not assume maintenance responsibility. And also, private roads may be established by prescriptive use, a recorded easement, or plat dedication. And sometimes our red road system on our maps, sometimes it follows what is a dedicated access easement. At times, it can be essentially a driveway that's serving a number of residences in a manner that we feel that needs to be named. And it also mentions that driveways, primarily the definition of driveway is that serves 2 residential structures or less. So really where this gets into a little bit of I guess leeway as far as us implementing the naming system, naming red roads, and trying to name roads in a grid system that in some places that have canyons and mountains to go over, and we're trying to follow this grid system as logically as possible. There can be a little bit of a, I guess, a judgment that we need to make. And we really we want to minimize the number of red roads that we implement on the system whenever possible. And the reason is because if you do implement a red road, it can cause more confusion than just assigning a couple addresses off a road that everybody already knows the name of. So our standard typically is it's a component of two things. The number of potential residences that would be served off of that access, if you will, and also a component of how far that is away from that next named road. So, for instance, Shaq has this up on the screen. This is an address that we assigned a couple months ago. In fact, we're going up, to finally put in the red road sign here tomorrow. And there's one address that's going to be off of this red road T.7. And this is almost a 2-mile long access easement path through and over canyons to get down to this property that goes through a number of other 40-acre tracts. Is this Lost Canyon Ranch. People are actually buying these tracts in here now, and they're actually starting to develop in here. And the potential for addresses includes, I believe, at least half a dozen parcels in there. We usually count potential addresses as two addresses, 2 residences per parcel, per tract. So the potential address through here is probably about 12 addresses fully built out. So in this case, we wanted to accommodate that future growth in this area as more of these tracts sell. So we didn't want to just address it off of the road 36.5. We're assigning a red road for that. It costs a little bit of time and money for the county, because in a case like this, it's not part of a subdivision. We didn't get to charge anybody for a post and a sign installation like we normally would do. It also costs a bit of time because we have to get this red road approved onto the red road system, or onto the official county road map to be adopted. So there's a little bit of it. We don't really want to do that unless we feel it's necessary. So this is an example of a long red road that serves one address at this point. Another example, we'll have an example of what is a couple of shorter red roads that serve 4 to 5 parcels each. And if you look at the bottom address, we actually have an address that would technically be out of compliance because we address the driveway access point, and that home is still addressed off of a road G because it was a corner lot. If we look at the next example as well, this shows pretty much the same situation, and this was typical of some of the issues that we see. If you just zoom into that, is that because the assessor's office didn't have GIS, they didn't have driveway plans, so they would, if it's a corner lot, sometimes it got assigned off the wrong road. And for these, we would like to get them corrected. We're typically waiting for an opportunity, whether that's a property sale or transaction, or at the time that they would be applying to put a second residence on their house, and we'd say, well, in order to assign you a correct second address, we need to correct your primary address at that time. So that's kind of where we're at now with addressing. There certainly are situations where there's a road. There's 4 houses right off the road, and you can see them all right there. We're obviously not going to red road that. We're not going to make a 300-foot long red road, but in a case where it would kind of demarc, 4911, a permanent drive access to multiple residences, that's kind of our threshold of that. Any questions about that?
I have one. So do we have the jurisdiction over the addresses along the state highways in Montezuma County too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And any unincorporated
Okay.
areas.
Area of the county is ours to address.
Yeah, any unincorporated areas. And the state highways are kind of interesting. They follow our grid system. If you look at Highway 145, I mean, it goes from southwest to northeast. You know, it's like you can consider it east-west or north-south. And that grid goes north-south, pretty sure. And there was some early talk. If we had it to do over again, we probably would address highway systems using mile markers for the highways, but we can't go back in time and redo that. So, but it works pretty well. Most of those addresses along the highway system 184 are pretty consistent, pretty good.
So we're pretty much caught up, correct, with the addresses? I remember one of Shaq and I's first day here, there was a issue of addresses and they were way out of sequence. And being a first responder, that is
That'll drive you
the
nuts.
most horrible thing that you can deal with, because you hit a sequence and a number and you're like, oh my God, we passed it somehow. You turn around and go the opposite direction. In reality, you need to continue to go forward. So it's crucial, especially when you have, you know, somebody that has a true emergency going on, you know, not breathing, heart attack. I mean, there's all kinds of things. And you're dinking around trying to turn a vehicle back and forth on a road to find the right address. So sequencing for me is extremely critical in trying to find the correct address in a proper amount of time.
We did have an example of, there was an address change off of Road 26 I believe. There's a little bit of a sequencing issue, and we had to change somebody's address that wasn't part of a new development, because to assign this correct address would have created an out of sequence address, so we reassigned theirs. Tried to explain it in the letter that we sent the best we could, and we didn't hear from that person. And so I was like, well, I guess that they understood the importance of it. You know, that really does affect people, but most people do understand. And sometimes there's true out of sequence, and then there's a little bit out of the grid. You know, we're not really getting into the nitty-gritties where, as long as they're in sequence, we don't care if it's, you know, 20 numbers off here or there, unless that causes other issues.
It's a lot better than it used to be.
Yeah.
I remember driving down roads looking for people's names on mailboxes.
Yeah. And one,
You don't see that a lot anymore.
No.
the good thing is, and this is that obviously we do send all our address change and update list to 911 in a spreadsheet, but obviously they get our data dumps from the GIS all the time as well. People complain if their address isn't showing up on Google Maps, and I wish we could do more about that, you know. But it is in the 911 system.
I think it's more critical for us that it's in our 911 system for
If we can't
a
find
true
you, we can't help
emergency.
you.
Yeah.
If Google Maps is gonna be for deliveries of products,
Yeah.
which is not critical to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I think our relationships with other agencies is always improving. You know, the utility companies recognize our authority, and so when someone's going to Empire Electric, they wait for our official documentation to say, yes, this is an approved address from the county. We can use this on your utilities. And the fire district, they help us by actually creating and selling address markers, so people can go to the Cortez Fire District and pay, I think it's $20 or $25, and they'll make you the reflective number sign that you can put out on your driveway, which is really nice for them and for us, and they'll do it for anyone. You don't have to be in the Cortez District.
So I have a question for you at that. So when we issue the driveway permit, then the address has been correlated with that, correct? So when we do our final inspection for the driveway permit, do we require then at that point in time that number is there?
So we wait, the sequence is the road department approves where their driveway location is gonna be. They build, either just the apron or the full driveway, and once that goes through final inspection, then we assign the address. And that way we make sure that people go through the proper steps to build their driveway to compliance, and then we can assign the address, and then they can start doing their utilities. And Rob or Virginia, they send us coordinates of where that is, so we can plop it, as accurately as possible.
Correct, but for emergency services, wouldn't it be better to add that address at that point in time? Because it may never get actually accomplished. If they get their mail in town, why would they
They
need
may
to
not
have?
care if it's out
Right.
there. Yeah.
Well, we
And if
send
you're hidden in the
announcements once a
trees,
month.
Is there something that we should maybe look at to add?
Well, what's that? We used to have a full-time, we used to have a staffed addressing position who did addressing at least 50% of the time or more in the past. And we have not had any enforcement as far as installing of the signage. We used to make address markers, so if an address was changed, or at that time, they were actually going out and identifying road segments that were very poor that needed to be looked at as a whole, and the address markers would have been, a county-supplied address marker would have been installed for those residences. Due to staffing issues and commissioner changes, we have not done that for a while. And we don't have any enforcement as far as installation of markers.
Yeah, that position was ended, and then we absorbed those duties, essentially.
Yeah, that ended probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah, 16 or 17.
Doesn't mean it can't be brought up. We had a vision. We wanted to apply for some grant funding as it could be available to install consistent signage throughout the county, at every reflective signage, consistent at every property. Something we can always look at.
The other issue we have is, I think it was in 2014 or 15 with the person who's in that position. A lot of addresses were TBD'd, addresses that weren't being used or on vacant land. So then that way, when someone goes to build, they will get an accurate address. So I think what we need to do is work with the realtors and help them kind of understand that better, because when people go to close, they'll see an address on a deed, which is an old address that is archived and not valid anymore. They'll start using that. And then we go and we assign a new one, and then there's confusion, or it just kind of creates some issues. So if people see on our map a TBD for their address, that means that it will need to be assigned by us.
Yeah, we catch most of those these days. And it literally, prior to this 2008 and working with all the entities, some of the post office route carriers would start handing out addresses, and we would never know. That's literally how it would come from everywhere. Or you could go down and you could tell Empire Electric, this is what my address was, and they would say, okay, good, And we've made a lot of strides.
Yeah, because everyone contacts us to verify addresses now.
Dolores County has done a fantastic job. They have installed countywide address markers, and you'll notice it. And
they are big markers too.
They're big.
The big blue ones.
And they funded that with Amber and Ashley up there, and they got it done, even up in Lone Cone, I do believe.
Yeah.
They did. And I guess that's what I'm asking is, like, why can't we do that? Because if we give an address and they build their driveway and the access is great, and then they don't do anything for a year, and then they start building, and we have somebody back there living there, and it's not clearly marked at the driveway. I mean, from a emergency response point, it is a bad feeling.
Yeah.
It is a horrible situation. And I think that we could, if Dolores County just did it, why can't we do it?
Well,
Why can't we make that happen? Why can't we add that or incorporate that into our driveway? Part of once it's determined and you determine the actual address, why can't we put the marker in the address?
Why haven't we done that is because it hadn't been supported by previous boards.
Okay. So are you asking for that today? What are you asking for? You're giving us a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we're just, we're
support is great.
educating you and the public about this.
We will
You're
look,
educating us that we have a problem.
we will
And I
look
get
at that, and I think, quite honestly, I think grant funded, and I think the most efficient way to do it, the way that we looked at it, would be essentially to solicit bids by qualified contractor to make the signs and install them. It's not necessarily efficient to have that done in-house for us to gear up just to do that. That's kind of what we're looking at, and we'll look at a project like that. I mean, one thing is that as far as enforcement, when Rob does his final on a green sign road, and this is only for a green sign road, when he does his final inspection, then they email us. He never goes back to that site. Then they email us, okay, they're good to go. Then we email the applicant the address. So that inspection, in some cases, in town, it would be during a CO. We don't have that. That might have to be part of a septic inspection. They should have their address assigned. Red road or green road, they should have their address marked at that point. So there's options.
And then we send them in batches to all the agencies once a month. So the fire district and the post office, they get the addresses we've assigned, once a month. It'd be too many emails and too cumbersome to do it every time we assign an address, because we probably do 15 to 20 a month. It's definitely increased over the years.
We just sent out, close to 50 or something like that?
Yeah, we had fallen behind because we've had
Well, that was over
extra
2
duties.
months, so that's almost one every business day. It's been kind of busy, yeah.
Yeah. But we can communicate with the fire district and EMS if they need to get these addresses sooner. Because sometimes we assign address and then people build their driveway, but they're not going to build anything till next year.
And that's fine. But I just think that they could build in 10 years, it doesn't matter, but that still has a number that eventually is going to be correlated with that access.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. They could be back there playing on a Sunday picnicking with their family.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a structure back there and somebody falls over.
Right.
I think we need to be doing better than that. And if it's communicating with the fire protection district because they already make the signs, how about we work together and get something done through the access process?
Yeah.
And I think the septic system could be too late because, like I said, they may have it for 10 years and camp out there for 10 years and never decide to build. I mean, there's nothing that says, but to get an access, I think is, just my opinion, is where we
Well,
start
and
at the beginning.
too often, the only marker they have out there are some little numbers on the mailbox, and that doesn't
Now,
really cut
let
it.
me tell you what, at night, looking at little numbers on a mailbox are not visible.
Or it
If
could be
it's
4
not
mailboxes that
minimum
are on the opposite side of the street,
Of the
obviously.
3 inches or 4 inches,
Yeah.
it is very difficult to find an address, and especially if it's not in sequence. It is.
And that's why we always recommend the reflective markers, because it looks nice when you have these numbers carved on a rock, but that's hard to see at night.
So
make
I guess
real-
I will task you guys with the Cortez Fire Protection District and come up with a plan. So you brought something to us, now I'm gonna task you with something.
All right, okay.
Because really, I mean, it's critical. Or for me, and I think Commissioner Lindsay can say the same thing, I've been in that situation trying to find somebody that needed emergency care, and you couldn't do it. So hold your breath for 5 minutes.
Right.
Well, in my job with the state, I depend on addresses every day.
So,
And a lot of times you drive down the road and wait for somebody to go like this
Yeah.
over by a house or
So,
something because they
I
see
Looking
think-
for a
Right.
flashing porch
because you
light or
can't
something.
find their address.
Yeah.
2021, we need to do better. So come up with a plan, get with
Okay.
the chief of the Fire Protection District, and let's see what we can work together.
I think
And
the
I
other
just wanna-
districts get you signs too, so.
I just want to deviate slightly for all those out in YouTube land, since we're talking about emergency services and addressing. If you're running a short-term rental, Airbnb, VRBO, please post the address inside, so if somebody needs emergency services and they call and the 911 dispatcher says, "Where is your emergency?" the people can tell them.
Right, that's a good point.
Little PSA.
Well, and that reminds me too of, a lot of people ask, why are you assigning a separate address on my secondary residence or a barn that I'm going to have, an Airbnb in? And we like any separate structure, we like it to have its own address. Whether they use it for mailing or not is not, not what we care about. It's about emergency services and recognizing that it's a separate structure so that when people come, they know which building they're going to. Yep. And, and it's livable structures. It's not every shed.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, okay.
We'll do that, and I think to make a noticeable difference, we'll have to also pursue ways to get the entire county done as a project, because otherwise it's never going to get done for all the stuff that's out there.
That red road that you just brought up, that T.7, that's going to be a tough address. You're going to see T.7 and it's going to turn north and south. That's going to be a tough address.
Yeah.
Because now you're going a totally different direction.
Well, it is, yeah. Well, I mean, we have our ways. When we interpret the grid, even though a road might curve, it's the general direction, and then we just assume that it keeps going in that direction, and that's how we do our address range. So even if you're looking, the great thing is, even if you're looking at the county road map, you pretty much know where something is.
Look at I-10 in the Phoenix area.
Yeah.
Well, and then that brings up a good point of like how we name roads, and we always do it case by case, because I wasn't here for this, but like was it Road 8 or Road 10 that, they decided to keep it the same name, like even though it jogs constantly, just for clarification.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're not trying to ruin anyone's day. We're just trying to.
No, I understand that. I mean, nobody. If you've had something for 10 years and all of a sudden you have to change it, I get it. I understand that it's going to be a disruption. However, I think if the disruption is explained properly and that people understand why.
Right, and if we can provide markers and kind of alleviate some of that.
Provide the markers, just like Dolores County did. Just getting the mile markers on that road was a huge deal. People actually know now where each mile marker is on the Dolores Norwood Road. And it makes a lot of difference if you're in a bad situation.
Well, and then then that reminds me of Road G, McElmo Canyon. They installed mile markers, what was that, a few years ago?
We did that.
And so people question like, well, why is my address not along the mile marker? But our addresses are always with the section lines and in that grid system. So the mile markers don't necessarily line up.
Correct.
Because that road curves.
Yep.
So that, just to clear that confusion.
So yeah, I mean, lesson learned, that I do think that we're at a great time where we're in a much better position now to with our database and all the work that we've done to take on a large scale project. And also lesson learned, and the way we were doing it before was on a small vinyl cutter over in the road shop, which is for the most part collecting dust now, because it was way too labor intensive. So really, to get something done, when you're talking about ordering 1,000 signs or something, you have to place an order with a professional company that can get that done. So.
Agreed.
Okay, and then I'll just give a quick update. This is completely changing subjects now. So Doug and I met with Heather Otter from Region 9, and we were just talking about kind of economic development and the prospectus, like each time we get something, a potential project or a potential business from OEDIT, we put together our application, or kind of like our application, and it takes up a lot of time, and you know, we're constantly updating and changing. So what we talked about was, she gave us examples from like San Juan County, Colorado, and Denver. They have a packet that's kind of predetermined, and then they just make little edits to kind of tailor it to subject. But it's a professional looking document that they can send to potential businesses or kind of outreach like that. So we were talking about working on that, because we don't know if we're going to get that economic development person, and even if we do, this would be a good document to kind of create and set up for them, or just have done. And then that way it's kind of prepackaged, it looks good, and it highlights the key areas she suggested were place, talent, connectivity, business support, and case studies. So we're going to kind of build it around that. I don't know, do you have anything to add to that?
No, this all seems together with the creating a prospectus, creating a economic development website that contains concise information about our community, our benefits, our incentive packages, and so that's all coming together. We're just trying to find the time to work on this.
How does that come together with what we had approved for the chambers? Gosh, back in February, March, we gave them some money to help with their attracting businesses or just people to the communities. How does that fit in with what they were doing? I mean, I don't want to duplicate.
Yeah, that's a good point. It sounds like we should have a meeting with Colton then.
Well, Colton and Susan and
Colton
whoever
and
the new
Susan, so
person
kind
is.
of get
in
with them too
Memphis.
before we try to reinvent the wheel here. I don't want
Right.
to do that
Yeah.
and take up a lot of time that we don't need to.
And like the website, if it's just a matter of linking to like Region 9 and their data portal, and the chamber and their support system and their, you know, business center that they're building.
Okay.
Yeah, this was kind of spurred by a conversation with Heather Otter, working with Region 9. And
Sure.
we're asking them for some information. They have fantastic information. They haven't necessarily written all the narrative of the prospectus that as it applies to our community. We're gathering information as a group. We're all brainstorming and pulling it together for business attraction.
And I think that's great, but I think part of what they were developing at that point in time was the same thing
I
that
think
you're
that's
looking at.
Susan brought
So
that up.
Susan was working on the relocation guide, and that's, in my understanding, that's going to be general. This will be like a resume that we just make a few tweaks for each potential project coming in.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, that's really all we have.
All right. All right, got some more work to
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
Now you have some work to do.
Yeah.
Just
Send James in on your
Bring
way.
that up again, huh?
It's good. It's good.
No, I'll tell you, in Dolores County, you know, we actually, I can remember one night, not too long ago, getting on the phone with Dolores County's dispatch into Groundhog Vista subdivision, because I knew where the cabin was. And they're like, where do we go? We don't have any idea. There's no addresses up here. So through a phone conversation to a radio, we got them there, but it's still brutal. So the addressing that they did up there was
Yeah.
pretty good.
And that's why we
needed.
need to make sure that road signs are, you know, legible too, if those need to be replaced. Because there's some out there getting old,
Okay,
so,
all right, get to work.
yeah. Thanks.
Bigger signs so Jim can read them.
I didn't laugh out loud.
I can read everything far away, I
You
just
can
can't
read
up
them ones in
close.
Dolores County.
Yes, you
They're
can.
about that long.
All right. Well, James, don't sit down. You came in, we'll just jump right straight to you. We'll deviate a little bit. Jack brought you in here, so we'll get you back to work.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First thing I have before you is we've got a request from the BLM to provide them a letter of support for their OHV grant. This is an annual grant that the BLM pursues through the state of Colorado. We just recently did one for the U.S. Forest Service, so both agencies take advantage of this grant. For this year, they're hoping for $25,000 to $30,000 to help offset the cost of two OHV seasonal park ranger positions. And also they'll continue to engage with the other typical work that they usually do, which includes things like public outreach. They'll go out and try to educate folks that are participating in OHV sports, and have that type of outreach. Anyway, this is just a pretty standard letter of support for that grant request is what this is.
Okay.
I would move that we sign this letter of support for the, oh goodness, BLM's request for a CPW motorized trail grants.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to sign a letter of support sent to Tom Metza, the OHV Program Manager of the CPW in Littleton, Colorado, in request for the CPW Motorized Trails Grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. Also wanted to let the commissioners know that I did attend a field trip with the Dwarf Working Group last Wednesday. We went up and visited the Lone Pine logging operation up in Dolores County. They're actually using a crew from Cortez to do the logging. I don't know who's exactly doing the trucking, but most of those logs are going up to Montrose at this point. Does sound like some of the beetle kill in there. We're negotiating with Mr. Dave Sitton to see whether or not he can take some of those beetle kill trees in there too. A lot of them are pretty good sized trees, and he may have some a decent market for those trees. Overall, it looks like to me the operation is going pretty smoothly up there. The way that they're conducting the cut, they're actually trying to learn from some of the things that maybe went a little bit wrong on the Chicken Creek cut. So we're constantly trying to improve the process the whole way through. Basically, it is not the old-fashioned clear cut that we're used to. So what they're really going in and doing is trying to cull trees at this point. It's overstocked at this level. The basal area is in excess of over 100 in some areas, probably pushing 200 in other areas. The desired condition would be more around, say, 50 to 80. In terms of the basal area. So it's a significantly overstocked area. It was all logged out, pretty well completely logged out by the 1940s. It was a roughly a 20-year period where most of that logging up there took place. And it was essentially clear cut the first time. So essentially what happened is all the growth that we're seeing in there is pretty much an even age. It all kind of came up at the same time. So the objective is to really cull that timber out, thin it out, and also to create opportunity for regeneration to happen. What we're looking for is more an uneven aged grouping of trees in there. And hopefully, we'll have, say, a 30-year cycle of re-entry to go back in and do additional treatments, which would probably be following a very similar prescription to what we're seeing now. We'd be trying to leave plenty of trees behind for seed stock, and again, it would be sort of a culling process. Obviously they're taking marketable timber out, but as we go through that whole process with the timber markers, we see what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is take any of the trees that are weakened, have forked tops, may have beetles in them, mistletoe, things of that nature first. And so you're working your way from the trees that are worst up to the trees. You're still going to have to take a few of the good trees. And so that is the way this whole cut is being handled. The logging skid trails or dispersed skid trails to try to alleviate some of the compaction damage and things of that nature. The other thing is that the skid trails will result in some of the mineral soil being turned up, which is necessary
necessary for ponderosa pine to regenerate. They have to have that mineral soil exposed. So following the treatments up there, we anticipate having them come through with low-intensity fire to burn off the lingering vegetation, particularly the oak shrub, which is pretty good at kind of choking out regrowth and things like that. So we'll beat that back, hopefully get some new regrowth, and the stand we hope to be seeing again in about 30 years, hopefully for a follow-up treatment and harvestable timber cut. All the way around, I think it looks pretty good up there. We haven't, the commissioners didn't report any significant problems with the way this cut was going on. Some of the hunters have expressed a little bit of displeasure, saying, oh, well, it pushed all the elk out. But I can tell you, I hunted for a week in a wilderness area and didn't see a single track. Yet I walked through the middle of those freshly cut timber and there are tracks everywhere. So there's just no telling about that kind of thing. So for some reason, the elk seem and the big game seem to be attracted to these cuts when they're first completed. Don't know nobody knows why, but they do seem to like to go in and investigate those areas.
Yeah, I think that's a true statement. I've seen that in the south end up here, and he's right. It does look really good up there.
Actually, when you brought that up, the Montrose, I actually had a call yesterday from Keith Caddy, Commissioner in Montrose County, and he was asking about a support letter. Obviously, since our email and our DNS are whatever that is, but that'll be coming up again as soon as we get what they're requesting, because all of our, or not all, but a lot of that stuff is going up to that Montrose mill.
Correct.
So he was kind of asking for support from Montezuma County, Archuleta County, because a lot of those logs are going to Montrose too. So
Right.
once I get that, I'll get it to you. Just to FYI, gentlemen, that Montrose County reached out to us yesterday for. So
Okay, I'll be watching for it then.
yeah, so I don't know if it'll come straight to us or if it comes to you, but that will be forthcoming.
Okay. The last thing I'll say about the whole timber situation up there, they're leaving behind pretty big piles of slash. They call it POL, products other than logs. What to do with that slash is a lingering question. Right now, they're allowed to scatter about 20% of it. We're trying to rework that some nutrients back into the native soil there, but the remaining 80% is being piled up, and those piles will eventually be burnt. So just to let everybody know, the timber industry is working on this problem really hard. Right now, it's just, not cost effective to haul that kind of material off. It's really hard to haul, first of all. But then what you do with it is also a question. We do have a couple folks in the county that are looking really intently at putting in a pellet mill. That may help solve some of this problem. We hope that could be the case. We're also investigating, of course, biochar, which I think everybody's familiar with. But again, hauling is an issue, so probably investigating some kind of a mobile biochar facility would be maybe preferable. So in other words, you haul it right up to the woods and actually do your processing up there. And at least what you're hauling out of the woods that way is a finished product. So these things, we've been working on these for years. I'm sure you remember hearing a lot about this.
It's still around.
Yep. So still a lingering problem. It's an opportunity, but again, overcoming just the price point on your hauling fees is really what it comes down to.
Price of fuel messes
Correct.
that up.
Yeah. So anyway, a problem we will continue to work on, but just want to let commissioners know there's some movement in that direction. Okay, for the last thing I wanted to present today is just to give a commissioners kind of an update on where we're at with the trail projects and how everything's kind of working out with that. What I wanted to do is really provide an estimate of what we need to put into the budget next year for the expenses that we see coming. And so I put together a little chart that hopefully explains this fairly well. I'm going to start with the easy one up at the top. This is the Mmof Fund. This works on the Cortez side, and it's working on the segment from the fairgrounds to the Mesa Verde entrance. Okay, we got a total project budget of $510,300 for that. Our match is 2.95%, which is $15,000. So we're expecting to probably spend most of that out within 2022. The project has to be done by June of 2023. So I'm really pushing. There may be something that lingering that kind of spills over into the following year, but I'm pushing really hard to have that completed by Christmas time and leave us 6 months to be able to close that grant out and make sure all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted. So what we've paid out on that to date is $73,417. What we're anticipating getting back from that is $495,246. So basically, the state share is everything except for that 2.95%, which we will split between the county and Cortez. So we're looking at about $7,500 a piece for each partner share on that. The CTP grant, that is the Colorado GOCO grant. Our total project budget on that is $276,500. Our match on that was $83,150. The split, as everyone recalls, was 30-70 with Mancos on that, because this focuses on the Mesa Verde to Mancos section. Okay, I want to point out that this particular fund, that $276,500, can be the match for the design that we're working on with the flap. And the flap overall budget was $5,700,000, and that's on the Mancos side. So our percentage match on that was 17.21%. That's $990,000. What FLAP is telling me is that we should be anticipating being billed $301,500 for the work that they're doing on that in 21-22. So we've already paid about $10,000 out. That happened prior to actually signing all this up and everything. It was something we had to pay in order to get this project rolling. We've had a bill of $9,326 and also one for $29,144. Neither one of those bills have been submitted as reimbursable yet because we're still waiting for one of the checks to clear. So once those clear, we should be able to ask for a reimbursement for that, which will be actually reimbursement to the CTB. That's where this whole thing gets kind of complicated a bit. Ultimately, what we're anticipating is the whole CTB fund, that $276,500, should go against the overall match that we're required for the FLAP project. So if you see it'll be the third column of the FLAP, we're starting out with the $990,000 starting match. So we can take that $276,500 out of that. That leaves us $713,500. We've already paid $48,470, which leaves us with a remaining match of $665,030. If we go all the way across to the right-hand side, we'll see how that split works up. As we recall, Mancos was supposed to pay 30%, and the county was to cover the remaining 70%. So that's where we see those percentages split up. So what I'm anticipating this year, everything in the column that says cash outlay, where it says that in red, that's kind of what I'm anticipating that we need to be setting aside to fulfill our commitments for the year. What we'll see 2 columns over is what we're expecting to receive back from that, which is $688,596. So at this point, we're starting to lay out some cash for these trails. And so the difference on that is $326,273 between what we lay out and what we're anticipating to get back in. So, and as you follow over to the right-hand side, you can see the partner share that we're anticipating to get back from those partners. So that's what we're looking at, where we're at for the trail projects for this year. And I think that the big hit is really going to be the FLAP percentage, because what they're doing is they're charging us against the match that we're supposed to pay in. So all these other projects are typically receive a bill that shows the services. We submit it for reimbursement. This is different in the sense that we're not we're submitting anything for reimbursement. To FLAP in particular, they're all charging against the match that we're projected to owe. So I guess the good news on that is that the CTB match is all going to count against the $990,000 that we're owing for that. So that is a big chunk right there. Nevertheless, it does leave us with quite a bit that we need to be prepared for.
And so, Commissioners, this would be reflected in the capital expenditures budget?
The 326.
Yeah, it would show $1 million going out and 600,000 plus coming in.
Correct.
That's correct.
Question?
No.
Okay, it's a little hard to explain when we start matching one grant against the other. We hope we can keep doing that. It complicates things, but we hope we can keep doing that. And as I told the commissioners before, really to kind of reach the numbers that we need to be able to achieve construction, we need to really start looking at the federal dollars. And of course, and as we were told this morning, it sounds like there's more federal dollars heading this way, and I would anticipate these multimodal projects would probably be something that they would find acceptable for the infrastructure package. And again, I think if we can couple this up with the broadband, because we know there's money coming from that, we kill two birds with one stone. All of a sudden, this trail becomes much more of a practical sort of an endeavor. So hopefully we can do that, because there's no use paying for two projects separately.
Incorporate them both, and we can, yeah, absolutely. Because there is a lot for broadband, but even just our state funding with Senate Bill 260 that just passed, that's going to push a lot back into the MMOF also.
Yeah, it certainly should.
So I think we just have to be diligent to be looking at both that and the new infrastructure package.
I
because
agree.
that fiber, if we can get that, or at least the conduits in there incorporated with that project, I think we're going to be way better off.
Right. From my perspective, a lot of our limitations really circulate around when these funds become available, and what your deadline would happen to be trying to accomplish whatever your scope of work is. So those are our parameters. As long as we can make all those things mesh, why?
260's funding is supposed to start right away in 2022.
Okay.
So that's going to become, but that's state, that's not the federal.
Right. But that could help us get ourselves to a shovel-ready position for the Cortez to Fairgrounds section, for example. So, yeah. Okay, gentlemen, I think that's all I had for today.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
James.
James.
Thank you.
All right, we'll back up, and we're going to go up to the unfinished business portion of this, and the only thing we have right now is the dependent coverage. Gentlemen, I think Billy provided for us some new spreadsheets. We discussed this yesterday in our workshop. Billy, would you like to come on down and...
You're the next contestant. I guess we'll find out if the price is right.
So basically what I did was a 30/70 like you asked. I did two, one for 30, say for example the county paid 30% of the dependent coverage. If you look at the very last column, the $2,239,000 would be, we're going to pay that no matter what per employee for the whole county, because we pay the employees' premiums. So that's the employees' premiums. So if we paid 30% of dependent coverage, and I went with 50. We have 22 right now that have dependent coverage, so I just took the number 50. So we would be paying on the zero deductible, one dependent, an extra $185,000 a year. So that last number is the excess that we would end up paying if we paid 30% for each plan. And I went with 50, which could be more, could be less, who knows? And the other one was a 70, which you can see would be quite high. The 30% would put us closer to what the change will be and closer to what, actually it'd be pretty darn good right now. So for the, for example, the zero deductible, the top yellow employee pays $720 right now, they're paying $1,044. If we don't pay any, they would be paying $1,029 come next year.
That's still a lot of money
Mhm.
for one person. 720.30
Yeah.
is what that's showing. Even if you go down to the-
$720.30 if it's for one, depending on the zero deductible.
$2,000
And it goes
deductible.
down as the
Deductible
deductible
increases.
goes
Yeah.
up, yeah.
Right.
Right now, everybody is-
719.
Right now, the least that anybody is able to pay for one dependent is $405.61 a month. So, and that's what they're paying current for the $2,500 deductible. And next year, it's going to go up to $608.48 if we pay nothing.
Okay, questions, guys? I personally am gonna have to have some time to really look at these and dissect these
Yeah,
numbers,
me
because
too.
these are, I don't know if even adding that 30% is gonna make a difference to what somebody's gonna be able to afford. Even if you go down to the $2,000 deductible, that's still almost $600 a month.
Mhm.
I don't know if we've really achieved,
I don't think we've achieved anything of what we're wanting to achieve.
no.
Yeah.
So, we're not gonna make a decision on this today. I know we have to make a decision.
You have to make the
rapidly.
decision next week because I have to have a budget ready to post on the 23rd.
Correct.
And I've got to get all
I
the
can just
numbers
tell
in
you
the
right now
computer.
that I don't feel comfortable with this. Just me personally. I don't, I look at these numbers and I don't think you're gonna get that 50 that you project.
I don't think so either, but
I
Don't
look
know.
at these on the employee side of what they're gonna have to pay, 720, 624, or 577. I mean, I think that's still out of range, and then you look at the families, and I think it's way out of range. I think it's just way too, so I don't, but I will look at the numbers and try and dissect them with you, Billy, but I can tell you right now, I don't feel comfortable with, I don't think we're gonna achieve what the goal was.
right.
That's just my opinion right now, without
That's my
taking a lot of
feeling,
time to
too.
dissect those.
Okay.
And we will leave that on there for unfinished business next week, because we
Okay.
can, now that you have these new numbers to us today. Okay?
All righty.
Okay, county attorney's report.
So biggest thing I've got to report to you guys, we did get a final fiber management proposal from the city of Cortez. Emails were out this morning, was on the phone with the county, or with the city attorney this morning. He was running through some final things with the city manager. So there were several counter proposals that went back and forth this week. I do have a hard copy. I'll get this out in an email to you guys. My understanding is that the attorney's going to present it to city council tonight. I'm very comfortable with it from a legal standpoint. I think it accomplishes the goal of working jointly with the city to get this thing managed. And so I think certainly I think we're in a position now where we can move forward. Again, I'll get this out to you. Tried to get a hard copy from the secretary this morning, but between the email issues and whatnot, it was quite a thing. So I've got it here, but I want to get you guys a copy to look at before we just push it through. So I'll get that to you later today, but certainly very encouraging, and I'm glad that's moving forward. Just a couple little other updates. We did get an appeal from Walmart to the Board of Assessment Appeals on the tax valuation. We did get notice from the Board of Assessment Appeals that a hearing has been set for May of 2022. So that's how far delayed they are. Have been in touch with Leslie about that hearing date, and so we'll prepare and be ready to go come May of next year. Road 41 case, we did get a notice of appeal from the landowners down there, so they did appeal Judge Plu's ruling here with the finding that there's basically a 60-foot right-of-way for the county down through Weber Canyon. Have been in touch with the insurance company's attorney. We are going to file a cross appeal on an issue dealing with how the court here dispatched of our trespass claim. We're not quite sure what the outcome's going to be. We're going to get that filed. That'll be due later this week. And so I am working with the insurance company on that. Planning. Don and Mel Jarman both sent out letters within the last week and a half to the property owner, Charles Fish, down on Road 23.6. There are issues down there.
As well as Cody sent one last Wednesday as well.
Yep. So we do have full letters. I do have a complaint drafted. I anticipate getting that filed today or tomorrow. It's ready to go. So again, just as we've been talking about, compliance with the land use code is something that this board wants to move forward, and we're going to continue to do that. So this will be the second complaint now that we're filing against the landowner. Our other land use case, we do have a trial set for December 17th. We are scheduled to meet with that landowner tomorrow at the property. I'll be meeting there with Shaq, Mel Jarman, Cody, and we're going to walk through with that property owner what needs to be addressed in order to come into compliance with the land use code. There's a lot of problems on that property. We're hopeful that we can work with the property owner, and he seems amenable to working with us. So we'll try to move that process forward out of court, but we are set for a trial in December, and if we don't get a resolution by then, I anticipate going to that trial on December 17th. We got an order from the district court late last week on our Road Y case. That's the road out on Road Y that there's a controversy whether that is a public right-of-way or whether that's a private road. I had asked the court to require the landowners to join the BLM and oil and gas companies that hold leaseholds along that road, given those parties' interests in the road. The court denied that request, and so we will move forward now with the case. Certainly, although that denial is disappointing, ultimately we can still subpoena the BLM and those oil and gas leaseholders to testify, and they can say their piece in any hearing as we move forward. So I anticipate now we got that order, that case is going to start to move forward more rapidly. We will have an answer due in a couple weeks, and so we'll get that filed.
So the gate is still open, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
So there's no restriction on the road?
That's my understanding, yep. One other little issue that came up, we did have a property owner out on Road Z that, in talking to Rob, there's some sheep herding going on in the county right away. It sounds like there's been some panels that have maybe been set up that's making it very difficult to maintain the road out there. So I am working with Rob to get a letter drafted. I think it's a great opportunity to just remind everybody out there that's watching, on most of these roads in the county, we have a 60-foot right-of-way to maintain the road. To the extent that things in that right-of-way interfere with our ability to maintain our county roads in a safe manner, those things can't be there. We have to be able to maintain those roads, keep those roads open, keep them safe for members of the general public. So we'll work with that landowner to hopefully get those impediments removed. And in the meantime, I think it's important to just remind everybody out there that, within that right-of-way, the county does have a right to use that to maintain the roads, and those need to be kept clear so we can keep everybody safe. And that's all I have for today.
Is that landowner out on Road Z, is he grazing off the bar ditches? Is that what's going on? Or?
I don't know. I don't know the details of exactly what's happening with the sheep. My understanding from the road superintendent is it's creating some issues from a maintenance standpoint.
Loading and unloading? Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Shaq, we'll go down to you now.
All right, I covered a lot of my report earlier, but I have two more things for the commissioners. The first thing is, and two of you are new to this, but every year the commission approves the holidays for the upcoming year, paid holidays for county employees. This list, as it currently sits, is reflective of holidays that we've had the past year.
So, since I read Shaq's email and I knew this was coming up, and we have used a couple other counties for wage surveys, I reached out to the same counties, La Plata County, Montrose County, and I actually used Los Animas County because I could get a hold of them of what their days were. We have 14 days there?
That's correct. Well, 13 and
13
one the following year
because it's
in
New Year. So
2023.
we have 13, and I'm just going to give you what I got from those other counties because they all got back to me this morning. La Plata County has 11. She said she sent me an email, but obviously I don't have an email yet that I can share with you all. Montrose County has 11, and Los Animas County has the same that we have as 13. So, I mean, one of the things that we changed was moving our meeting days for us from Mondays to Tuesdays so that we didn't miss any days, so that we could continue to keep the county running. And it's actually worked out pretty well. Gives the staff on a regular basis time to get things ready for Monday and then for our meetings on Tuesday. Otherwise, they were missing 13 days annually just because of holidays. So, and I know it's a benefit, and some people are probably going to hate me for saying this, but I think it's too many, and I think it's really up to us. If we're going to use these other counties for the same thing that we're using them for, I think that we should also follow with the 11 and dismiss a couple. So that's what I have to say about it, and I'll leave it up to you guys to say what you have to say.
I agree. I think we can pare it back to 11. And, in those days, we can get some, probably, this is gonna sound crass, but we can get some more done. And in those days we're paying for to be off, we can help pay for some other ideas down the road, I think. Because we pay quite a bit of money for those days off.
Okay. Commissioner Stevenson?
No, I agree. I think we need to reach back out to those counties and see what days.
Well, I'll have an email as soon as I can get
What days they
an
have
email.
But I agree. We're in the business to serve the community, and that's what we should be doing.
So what, Shaq, do you need from us, just a vote on how many we want to approve, and then we can decide
Well, we
that
need to
in our
put out a
workshop?
list for planning purposes of which ones they're going to be. It isn't as time sensitive as the budget. So
Okay,
you've got
so Why don't we
sometime.
put this on the workshop once I get these other emails from these other counties? See what they're doing, and then we obviously can make our own decision of which ones that we want to eliminate. But I think the number, if you're asking for it today, if I think I hear a consensus, is that we move it to 11.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that what you needed?
Well, ultimately, I will need a list for the
Yeah,
following
we'll-
year, but I'll put it on next
Right,
week's
so we
workshop
can talk
agenda.
about this in the work session of the ones that we want to move, but I think that if we need a decision made today, the decision is going to be that it's going to be pared back to 11.
Okay. And then the final thing that I have is more for the public press release. The Montezuma County is inviting residents, registered voters to participate in a survey regarding a potential ballot measure to create a sales tax. So starting on the 12th, we'll be launching a voter survey to get the opinions of voters within the county. It will be available on our website. It will be available on our Facebook. It will also be going out by text messages to random phone numbers, and it will be after the text messages and computer surveys are finished, then there will be some follow-up phone surveys. So we would encourage the members of the voting public, if you have a strong preference one way or the other, to please participate in filling out the survey and give us your opinions on those issues.
Sounds good. Is that it?
That's all from my report, unless the commissioners have any questions or
Well,
comments.
we encourage people to do this survey too, because this is
Yeah.
gonna reflect how we proceed with this deal, what the results of this survey is. I think it's time to take some of this tax burden off the backs of the private property owners in Montezuma County. They foot the bill for everything. I think all of the tourists that come through here and stuff that use our infrastructure should be paying their fair share of the use of the infrastructure, and this is one way to do it. I don't like taxes, but this is a way of taking a majority of the tax burden away from the private property.
Well, I'll certainly make sure that my employees know about it. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best ways we have of getting this kind of information, so we can make.
And it says it takes 8 minutes to do the survey. I got on there and done their one. It took me about 3.5 minutes to do the survey. It's pretty simple to do, and
They're going to release that when, Shaq? This
On
week?
the 12th.
The 12th?
The 12th.
Okay.
I presented this to Dolores last night at their board meeting. I think Commissioner Lindsay's doing it tonight in
Tonight.
Cortez, and
I got Mancus tomorrow
Mancus
night.
on Wednesday night. Correct?
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah, we're not going to call you up, put something in your mailbox or anything else. It's just volunteer, get online and do the survey, please.
Well, I reach out to all the business owners to encourage their employees to look at this and make their decisions on that. Feedback, no feedback is no good.
Yeah.
Is that all you have?
That
Okay.
concludes my report.
All right, Commissioner's report.
Okay, I had it on my list to promote that survey, and we've done that. This is more up here, but during a housing solutions meeting that I was zoomed in on 2 weeks ago, they had a gal in there that made a presentation, lasted about 15 minutes, and had numbers on short-term rentals and how many people we lose each day going to jobs outside of the county and what comes in. It was really, if you guys want something like that, we can get her lined up and she can zoom in and we can just have a little presentation if you want to see it. I think we can get her lined up. Other than that, I answered some phone calls, met with some people, got some emails, about various things, but mostly about planning and zoning. Also, I attended a 100-year anniversary of Ertel Funeral Home over the weekend. Quite a lot of people, some really nice friends, good relations, a lot of visiting going on. And it's quite an accomplishment to have a business in Montezuma County be continuous for 100 years. If there's some out there, I can't think of any right now. Farmers? Okay, 101? Congratulations, we appreciate that. And we should focus more on keeping businesses and letting them age like these do. So, we appreciate you. And lastly, but not least, day after tomorrow, please thank a veteran. It's Veterans Day. You see one, thank one. I know I have many in my family. And to all those out there, thank you.
And I agree, and that is Thursday, and I think they are still having their parade, right?
Yes.
As far as I know, it'll go down
shifted,
Montezuma
but it'll be
Avenue.
Yeah,
down
down Montezuma.
Yeah.
So again, if you do have the time, come out to that parade. I think it's early in the afternoon, 1:30. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to look it up, but again.
Starts at
1
1.
o'clock. Thank Yvette. Commissioner Stevenson.
Yeah, mainly this week we've been inundated with emails over planning and zoning and stuff, and trying to get through that stuff. And people, I would just like you to remember there is a process to all of this. And a lot of the stuff you're emailing us about, it hadn't even got to us yet. We don't know what's going on till it gets to us. Your emails don't go unnoticed. We read them, we take them into consideration, but a lot of that stuff is it's too early in the game for a lot of the stuff that we don't even know that's coming. So just keep that in mind as you're sending out nasty emails, because most of them were pretty nasty this week. And I've talked to a lot of people on the phone and this stuff over mainly all the planning and zoning stuff this week, but that's about it.
Okay, and I won't beat that dead horse, but I'll just echo exactly what they said. We did spend a lot of time with that this week. CCI had a public lands meeting on Friday that I was unable to attend. I'm going to get with Kylie Burris and see if we can get that recording. But basically, again, what I asked you guys yesterday is for one of you to consider running for the public lands delegation at CCI. There's also a traveling team, so it consists of 6 traveling members and then a chair and a co-chair. It's just a committee that I can't, with the transportation at NACO and CCI, I don't, my plate is full for these two.
I'm interested in
So,
that,
I'll introduce you to the people you need to know at the next meeting when we go in December.
Okay.
And then the elections take place in January. And I think with basically 73% public land, it's pretty important that we have some kind of a representation with that. We, yesterday in our workshop, discussed more of our dependent coverage, which kind of was alluded to with the numbers that you saw presented to us earlier in the meeting, and we'll decide on that next week. We also had a meeting set up. We had Access here kind of discussing and trying to make a plan or a dialogue of how we move forward to help as all of us working together to create better services for the community as far as mental health goes. And attended the Dolores workshop last night, which was not a workshop, I'm sorry. It was their actual meeting. Went over the sales tax survey with them, and they basically had their second hearing on their building codes and discussed their budget. And I have to say this again, they hit another record high on their sales tax of a little over $84,000 for the little town of Dolores, and that's reporting for September because they're always
A month
in
behind,
arrears.
yeah.
So people are moving, people are out there, and people are spending money. So to us, I'm going to reiterate that the other commissioners have already said, you know, this survey to us is a big thing so that we know how to move forward, what the pleasure of the community is, and how we're going to be able to move the county forward. So please take this survey so that we know what to do. And with that, I went over the infrastructure bill and their funding, and that's all I have. So, gentlemen, we are at the end of our meeting. We will take a tour. We are going to run out to the fairgrounds this afternoon after lunch and kind of look at the facility as far as the arenas and how we prepare the arenas for the barrel races and rodeos. So that's where we'll be after lunch. So, gentlemen,
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting of November 9th, 2021. All those in favor?
Aye.